December 2001. A quiet conference room inside the Russell offices, Canberra. Around a polished table, senior officers, civil servants, and budget analysts make a decision that feels routine, practical, even inevitable. They vote to cancel a vehicle that hasn't yet proven itself. On paper, it's easy to dismiss. The prototype sitting in a Bendigo workshop is too heavy, too expensive, and already years behind schedule. Critics inside the army mock it openly. The armored Winnebago, they call it. A clumsy, four-wheeled truck with no tracks, awkward lines, and a strange V-shaped underside no Australian vehicle has ever used before. It doesn't look like the future of warfare. It looks like a mistake. And yet, over the next 2 decades, that mistake would drive through more than 100 roadside bomb attacks in Iraq and Afghanistan, without losing a single Australian soldier inside. This is the story of the Bushmaster. To understand why it mattered, you have to go back to 1987. Australia wasn't preparing for a conventional invasion. The threat envisioned in defense planning was stranger, less predictable, small, lightly armed groups slipping across the vast, empty northern coastline. The army needed something different, a vehicle that could carry a full infantry section across punishing distances, fit inside a Hercules transport aircraft, and survive an ambush in terrain without roads. That requirement became Project Bushranger. What followed was years of trials, redesigns, and political tension. By the late 1990s, a new design, based on technology refined in southern Africa, began to stand out. Its defining feature wasn't speed or firepower. It was survival. The hull was shaped like a wedge. Not for style, but for physics. When an explosion detonates beneath it, the angled steel deflects the blast outward, away from the crew. Seats are suspended from the walls, not bolted to the floor. Fuel sits outside the main compartment. Every detail serves a single purpose: keep the people inside alive. It wasn't revolutionary on paper. Modest weight. A diesel engine. Enough room for 9 soldiers. But its promise was bold: survive a massive blast that would destroy a conventional vehicle. At the time, few believed it. Then came Iraq. In 2005, the first Bushmasters rolled off transport aircraft into the dust of southern Iraq. Soon after, they were operating in Afghanistan's most dangerous provinces. The threat they faced wasn't theoretical anymore, it was buried in roads, hidden in culverts, waiting under wheels. Improvised explosive devices. Again and again, the blasts came. Vehicles were torn apart. Axles ripped free. Armor plates scarred and twisted. And again, the crews walked away. By 2011, dozens of Bushmasters had been destroyed beyond repair. Every single occupant survived. Soldiers began to trust it in a way no specification sheet could measure. Not because it was perfect, but because it worked when everything else failed. Meanwhile, other armies were learning the same lesson the hard way. In Iraq and Afghanistan, lightly armored patrol vehicles proved devastatingly vulnerable. Losses mounted. Public pressure grew. Investigations followed. And quietly, orders were placed. Special Forces units, including Britain's elite formations, began operating Bushmasters under different names, fitted with heavier armor and new systems. Other nations followed: Europe, Asia, the Pacific. What had once been dismissed as awkward was now in demand. Then, in 2022, the request came from a country fighting for its survival. Addressing Australia's parliament from a war zone, Ukraine's president asked for one vehicle by name. Within weeks, Bushmasters were on their way. They would go on to serve in another brutal conflict, different terrain, same threat. Mines. Ambushes. Explosions beneath the hull. And once again, they carried people through. Back in Bendigo, the factory never stopped. More than 1,000 vehicles built. New variants, new contracts, new missions. Even as warfare evolves, with drones, missiles, and technologies the original designers never imagined, the core idea remains unchanged. Not how to win a war, but how to survive one. Because in the end, the Bushmaster isn't fast. It isn't elegant. It doesn't dominate headlines or redefine tactics. It does something far simpler, and far more important. It brings people home.